Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Null. It's nice to have you with us today. Instead of doing our normal health and nutrition as we do every day, I'm going to give some health advice for those who are concerned about the coronavirus, if they have it, if they know someone who has it, or if they want to prevent it. Everything I will share with you is based upon peer-reviewed literature. You can easily find it in PubMed, the government's official website of respected literature from the scientific community. That's the only information we use on this program when it comes to sharing what a particular nutrient or diet will do. But also today I'm concerned of how many people they're terrified of what's happening on all levels with the environment, with unemployment and joblessness, people whose careers are being taken over by a young person. They might be 50 and have worked at a place for 30 years. They have seniority. They have a nice income, quality of life. And now someone comes in who's going to work for $40,000, who has a PhD, and they're from India or, let's say, South Korea or some other country, China, and they're on a visa. The corporation found we don't have to pay this person medical leave or sick days. We don't have to give them health insurance. They don't have any seniority. So they're going to be working every day at 1/3 what we're paying you. So you teach them what you need for them to know, and then you leave. If you don't teach them, well, then we won't give you some kind of severance pay. This is happening every single day in America, and it's happening to tens of thousands per year. It's never discussed. Nor is the ramifications of artificial intelligence, transhumanism, which is here now, the whole ability for corporations to control you. They can't control you if you have freedom of choice, freedom of speech. So now there's an effort to destroy your freedom of speech and your freedom of choice. You have no choice about vaccines. And I can assure you, when COVID comes, you'll have none at all. Now, I found a clip. I don't have time today, I'll play it tomorrow, of Anthony Fauci recently saying something to this effect, but you'll hear it in his exact words tomorrow, that anyone who believes that there's not all these deaths that are real deaths from COVID, well, they're just a conspiracy theorist. And then behind that is the media saying, yes, and we're going to attack, shame, and deplatform anyone who questions anything that the establishment says or corporate America about anything. Shouldn't that concern you? And now they're playing the race card. Now, are there legitimate concerns? You bet. Should we all be concerned about racism where it does exist, which is not everywhere? Yes, we should. But why has there been no commentaries from any of the people harping about the achievements that have been made since the mid-1960s, as if it never happened? Some people are acting like this is 1850. Pre-Emancipation Proclamation, pre the Civil War, pre-millions of Americans who went to fight racism, and hundreds of thousands died to free slaves. And these people are saying they're all racist. You mean the people who fought and gave their lives so others would not be slaves, they're racist? What kind of mind has that kind of projection? Clearly a simpleton mind. And right now, from academia, shame on them. From the intellectual leagues, shame on you. Shame on the media that has no shame for acting nothing more than a sock puppet for corporate interests. We're going to delve into all this today. And I'm going to keep on this until we finally know what's coming at us, because we can't stop it. It's too late. It's really too late. We can't stop global warming. It's too late. We can only adapt ourselves to where we're out of harm's way and still have quality of life. That's why I did a 6-hour seminar 3 weeks ago on this topic, on surviving the future as best we can. And you can, but not when you're living in South Beach, or not when you're living on the coasts of the United States, including in New York, and not when you're living on the West Coast, not when you're living on the Gulf Coast. There are places you just can't live and have a sustainable future. You might get away with it one season, but what happens if you don't get a hurricane this season? You will get one next season. And what if it's a Category 5? And you still haven't recovered from the last one 2.5 years ago? And what if that Category 6, the first in recorded history, that hit the Bahamas, hits the east coast of the United States? Category 6 hitting the east coast of the United States, you're looking at the greatest environmental destruction in American history. You would have at least 5 to 10 million Americans homeless. You'd have over $1 trillion in damages, and insurance would not cover you. So for those who are truly awake, not just stupidly awoke, and those who want to know what it is that they should do, we have positive suggestions. Today I'll be interviewing a person who's one of the finest minds in America, John Whitehead. He's a civil attorney, and he is a constitutional and human rights person who goes after people who are prosecuting and oppressing individuals. And we're going to talk about our new cultural civil war, of which race is only one part, and who's taking it from something we could change in a positive way by restructuring the entire policing system, the justice system, the prison system, and taking it to a level that is only destructive. Who's behind it manipulating all this? We'll be naming names. Then it's for you to decide. Plus we have some video clips. Now I'm going to play 3 video clips today, possibly 4. One is from a Dr. Kelly Victoria. She has a long talk. I'm going to take 10 minutes of it because she's an ultra-Orthodox doctor. She believes in vaccines. She believes in the testing. So when you have a top medical doctor and 2 separate board certifications in emergency medicine, by the way, public health medicine, and this is what she's supposed to do, help with things like the COVID episode. And listen to what she has to say. I can promise you, after what you hear today, watch her be censored by Facebook and Google. She'll be shamed and she'll be deplatformed. But we also have tenured University of Southern California professor Joel Hay today, and he's going to tell you there is no scientific proof social distancing prevents the spread. And it's a long talk. I'm going to give you 6 minutes of that, enough to make his message. Let's see what happens on his campus. And then I have a person who is just a regular layperson, probably based upon what he says. Not all do I agree upon, for many of these people, by the way. But I don't believe in censoring people or just having on people that I agree with. That's not good broadcasting. That's not good radio. Why in the hell, all the people that you hear on many of these shows on radio, they're all in the same choir? What if you're not knowing what hymn to sing? These people, you need diverse opinions, need to be challenged and to challenge. You need to have civil discourse and to allow whoever has the best argument to inform the public and the public to make up their own mind. So the fact that these people are on does not mean I concur with everything they're saying, but rather I want your input. So I'm saving time for you to call in after and only after you hear these 3. And finally, I don't know we'll have time, but on this. For years, we heard multiple times, I have all the clips, President Clinton and his wife talking about why we need a wall, we need borders, we need to keep out illegal aliens. Chuck Schumer, the leading Democrat in the Senate, same thing. Nancy Pelosi, the same thing. Barbara Boxer, same thing. Dianne Feinstein, who before Nancy Pelosi was the most powerful Democrat from California in the Senate, and same thing. And yet, and Barack Obama, same thing. Okay, we should have immigration because we benefit when we have a more diverse culture, but shouldn't we have ways of helping these people get into the country? I've gone on to this in great length, having hospitals for them to be checked and help with diseases they're bringing in so they don't spread them, but they also get help. Ways of helping them work, changing the procedures in the farms where many of them will go to work because it's the first thing they know, but not allowing them to be exploited, exposed to these toxic pesticides, and to be given a fair wage, not just a below minimum wage. All the things you could do to help someone coming into a country as a decency and as a human being so they can assimilate and become a constructive part of society. So why suddenly is everything they've ever said erased, scrubbed? And now there's a new mantra. Simple. 20 to 22 million illegal aliens could now vote, and they're going to vote Democratic. That guarantees them they'll win. They'll sweep House, Senate, probably the Senate, definitely the House, and definitely Trump is out. So what will happen to a society? Will they stay the same or change? You see, we're being manipulated at every level. So I'm just going to remind you that these people are liars. And by the way, Republicans are equal liars. Anything I would say about a Democrat, a corporate Democrat in particular, I would say about a corporate conservative Republican. I have no respect for either party. So that's our show. We have a lot of serious stuff to touch on. First up, what would I do? What would I suggest? Well, everything is based upon the immune system. The stronger your immune system, the better able you are to fight any form of virus bacteria. As an example, when we first began opening a room by itself at the request of persons with AIDS, HIV-infected people, at the Tri-State Healing Center, they said, can we have a room by ourselves because we have a lot to talk about in a supportive way. And Dr. Michael Elner was also there with one of the top people in ACT UP originally, and I gave him a room where they met every night with people who wanted alternative approaches or at least know what was available. So they didn't just take AZT. And a lot of the people originally came because they had been on AZT and got sick and their partners died. So the first time I went in there, about a week after we were open, one evening, and they wanted to be in the evening, the doctors and nursing staff all had gowns and gloves and face masks and I mean, they looked like they were working in a CDC stage 4 viral containment unit. And afterwards, not to make a scene, I got all the staff together, those on the night, and about 12 of them that night, and I said, look, these are human beings. When you walk in with all this super protection on, it does not create a warm environment. So just go in, it can be caught in the air. It's not in the air. There's no proof HIV can be caught in the air. That's just stupid superstition, my God. So as an example, I would go in, no protection, no gloves, no mask. I'd sit there and hold their hand, talk with them for hours. Now what was happening is a lot of diseases in that room. So my body, whatever it was exposed to, my immune system was able to mark it, destroy it, no disease. In fact, I've never been sick outside of a kid with measles, mumps, and chickenpox, nothing. Not that I am healthier than anyone else, it's just I pay attention to what makes me healthy and helps prevent the conditions. So right now, we need to build up our immune systems. Hot dogs, hamburgers, acidic food, colas, coffee, sugars, artificial sweeteners, lots of noise, high decibel noise, polluted air, stress, all deplete your immune system to the point where you can be walking around thinking you're healthy because you have no classically defined and diagnosed disease, but you're suffering from subclinical conditions where you're producing cancer, you're clogging your arteries, you're destroying cells in the brain, all without the major symptoms. That comes later at the tipping point. So what would you do? First, you go on a cleansing and detoxification protocol. It'll generally take you realistically about 9 months if you do it on a regular basis. Start your day with green apple, lemon juice. Have some ginger and garlic in there if you really want to go full course. Have at least 4 other glasses of juices a day. One of the juices should be a watermelon juice with grapefruit. You can have grapefruit and lemon and lime together. Celery, green apple, and cucumber. That's a good one as well. You should have 2 quality plant-based protein shakes a day, about 20 to 25 grams of complete protein per shake. You should have probiotics and prebiotics every single day, ideally twice a day. And you should have a full spectrum of nutrients on your plant-based diet. Lots of fiber from your whole grains and beans, legumes and pulses, nuts and seeds. and then your chlorophyll and polyphenol-rich foods from your grapes and plums and apples, all your fruits, and then your leafy green vegetables and your tubers. Sauerkraut, fermented foods are terrific. Then exercise twice a day. Ideally, 40 minutes in the morning, 40 minutes in the afternoon. Keep your body mass index down. Get a good night's sleep. And don't eat within 3 hours going to bed. Don't drink anything with 3 hours going to bed. A lot of people drink right up until the time they go to bed, or drink coffee or cola, not realizing those are diuretics, and you'll have to go to the bathroom several times a night just because that breaks rapid eye movement. And then find the things in life that are joyful. If I'm living in an impoverished environment, I'm going to find something that I can still appreciate. I used to live in a tiny little apartment, and we just put that little apartment in a new video. I have a whole series of video bios to show you my background. I'm doing this as a part of a challenge, a legal challenge to Wikipedia, what they've chosen to leave out. And they lie about everything that's in there, but they've chosen to leave out anything I've actually accomplished. You would think that I fell off the back of a cabbage truck someplace. And this tiny little room is where I kept my books. That's where I raised my daughter. So I'd go down to the park each day, Riverside Park, 89th Street. And Shelley would play with all the other kids. I would sit there and read and write, and so got the benefit. I didn't mind that I had a little room because I had this whole park I could enjoy. Look around you for the things you can feel good about, appreciate. Look for the ways you can break through from the limitations that you're feeling and expressing in a negative way. Stop being a part of the victim culture. It's a destructive culture. It's a destructive mindset. If you want to know who's going to die sooner, the victim culture will, because they're stabbing themselves each day with the metaphorical knife through the heart because they can't stop not being a victim. There's a point to where you learn the lesson of victimization so you can share it in ways that you never have to experience it again. But you want to build up your immune system? Laughter, positive thinking, be around positive people. That is the prescription for health. All right? It's that simple. It's not complicated. I know because I've done 44 clinical studies, 280 health support groups, and I've done over almost 70,000 people counseling. So I've got a lot of feedback. So this is what works. So try it. And if someone does have COVID, what I would do, I would get them into hyperbaric oxygen therapy. You can even buy home hyperbaric, these bags that you get into, and you get up a high oxygen and help the person relieve their breathing. You also give them the herbs that are known to destroy upper respiratory tract viruses, such as number one, be astragalus, around 2,000 milligrams, and vitamin C intravenous. Lots of doctors doing intravenous vitamin C now, but oral vitamin C anywhere between 5 to 20,000 milligrams a day in generally protein shakes because it buffers it, allows more to go in. Quercetin, anywhere from 4 to 6,000 milligrams a day, antiviral. It was able to destroy, I watched it destroy the HIV virus in Linus Pauling's virology laboratory with Dr. Jawala. Vitamin C and quercetin together are phenomenal. Vitamin D, if someone had it, I'd start at 50,000 units and go up. And before that, 5,000 to prevent it. 30 milligrams of zinc a day, selenium 200 micrograms a day, B-complex 25 milligrams a day, coenzyme Q10 1 to 300 milligrams a day, cayenne at a high heat unit 1 to 2 times a day, thin the blood, help the circulation, enhance the immune system. Pau d'Arco, echinacea are great. Beets and beet juice are terrific. So these are the things that we could do, and everything I just mentioned is in the peer-reviewed literature. Thousands of studies, tens of thousands of studies, and yet we're told, don't trust anything that's not coming out of Anthony Fauci, but I wouldn't trust anything that he does say, nor the New York Times. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, first, since the Democrats are so good at virtue shaming, and then get the media to support them, why don't you ask them to explain this contradiction? It's only 2 minutes long, but this shows you the utter, complete, rampant hypocrisy of those who are loyal to power and the privileges that power gives them. And you won't see anyone in power giving up their privilege. So these are all hypocrites. Back in a moment.
If making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right? Guess again. If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee of full access to all public and social services this society provides.
It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
I think we can enforce our borders. I think we should enforce our borders. To have a situation where 40% of the babies born on Medicaid in California today are born of illegal immigrants creates a very real problem.
I'm deeply opposed to illegal immigration, and I call on the federal government, the president, and the immigration services to stop the inflood of illegal immigrants into this country.
I believe we have very serious immigration problems in this country. I think, as you've heard today, sanctions against employers who hire illegal immigrants is virtually non-existent. Our border is very porous.
Well, look, I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants.
Is that illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. Until the American people are convinced that we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we will make no progress.
Okay, all of the people, starting with Harry Reid, the most powerful Democrat in Congress, and two different presidents, Hillary Clinton, Dianne Feinstein, and Chuck Schumer. You heard it, plain and simple. Okay, that's their view, not mine. I have a more humanistic and spiritual view of immigration. They're doing this only because of politics and to win an election. Fine, let them be honest about it. Otherwise, which one are we supposed to believe? Adamantly for all unrestricted immigration, no walls, or against it, and as Hillary said, supporting walls. Each one of them supported walls. You see, that's why the American public doesn't like and shouldn't trust any politicians or the news media that supports them. But who's behind them? I guess in a few minutes we'll answer that. Now, here are some people. Again, two of these people are highly respected, very orthodox. I do not share all their points of view. In fact, I'm strongly opposed to some of their points of view. And then just a layperson. Listen to what they have to say, and then I'll give you a minute or two to call in and share your points of view on this. 888-874-4888. Now we'll go to Professor Kelly Victoria first.
What do we know about COVID-19? Well, we know that it's a coronavirus. It's one of 26 major families of viruses. It's named for the microscopic appearance of the proteins that are stuck on the outside of the virus that resemble somewhat of a crown, hence the name corona. Coronaviruses are very common. Upwards of 20% of all common colds are actually caused by coronavirus. We know that COVID-19 is a mild disease in the vast majority of people. 85% of people who contract COVID-19 have few, if any, symptoms at all. Another 10% or so actually become ill the way you might with the flu and need to seek medical care, but only a very small number actually require hospitalization. And although any deaths are tragic, only a tiny fraction have died from this infection. We know that COVID-19 is a novel virus, one that hadn't been previously identified by scientists. But that doesn't mean that our bodies have no idea how to respond to it, as you may have been told. Although you may never have seen this exact virus before, our bodies have seen lots of viruses like it, and the immune system is remarkably capable of adapting. An analogy I might make is that although I've never met you, if I ran into you on the street, I would have a good idea how to interact. I'd know that you're a person, not a tree, a man, a woman, tall or short, and I would have a good idea of how to begin interacting with you, even though I'd never met you before. We know that COVID-19 has the ability to mutate or change its appearance over time. All viruses can mutate, but coronaviruses are especially good at it. The reassuring news is that most mutations end up making the virus weaker or less lethal rather than more. This particular virus doesn't do well when exposed to warm temperatures or to sunshine. It simply can't survive for more than a few minutes when the temperatures are above about 70 degrees, and certainly not when temperatures are in the mid-80s or higher. And finally, coronaviruses tend to be cyclic or seasonal in nature, meaning they have normal increases and decreases based on the weather, typically declining in the warmer months and potentially increasing in the cooler, wetter months. And this is why you may have heard that there could be a second wave in the fall. So, who is truly at risk from COVID-19? We know that not everyone is at significant risk from this virus. In fact, as I said previously, most people, the vast majority of people, will not have any significant illness even if they do contract the virus. The people who we are most concerned about are those who are over the age of 70 and who also have underlying health problems, what physicians call comorbidities. The underlying diseases that we are specifically concerned about are diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and lung diseases like asthma or emphysema. When it comes to risk from COVID-19, overall health is far more important than your chronologic age. In other words, the number of candles on your last birthday cake is less important than how active, fit, and healthy you are overall. Children are at virtually no risk. Only a handful of children throughout the country have had any significant illness from COVID-19, and all of them had serious underlying health issues. In fact, outside of New York City, this virus has essentially been a nursing home problem. The general public has simply not been impacted the way the media and public health officials have led us to believe. Given everything I've just laid out in terms of the nature of the virus itself and those who are truly at risk, I can say that the national response to COVID-19 was horribly misguided. Let's start with the idea of social distancing. Social distancing isn't even an established healthcare concept, and certainly not one in the public health. The whole idea of social distancing was based on a theoretical model explored by a high school student in a science fair some years ago, looking at how an infectious disease might hypothetically spread as the result of potential exposures amongst kids at school. In other words, it was never scientifically based as a method for responding to a pandemic. What is a fundamental public health method for controlling the spread of infectious diseases is quarantine. In quarantine, the sick are isolated, kept indoors, away from others, and those who are at significant risk, the elderly and those with underlying diseases, are protected, say by the wearing of masks in public. Keeping healthy people isolated from one another simply isn't necessary. Masks are intended for the ill, when they will be potentially in contact with others, and for those who are caring for them. Multiple medical authorities, including the World Health Organization, the CDC, the New England Journal of Medicine, have now all acknowledged that there is no scientific justification for normal, healthy people to be wearing masks. In fact, prolonged mask wearing actually increases the risk of disease to the wearer. People tend to touch their faces much more often when they're wearing a mask. In addition, we end up rebreathing particles that our lungs have exhaled, whether it's pollen, dust, virus, or bacteria particles. They are trapped in the mask, and on the very next inhale, we breathe them back in. Lastly, many people are wearing masks other than surgical or medical masks, and many of them are not porous enough to allow carbon dioxide that we exhale to fully dissipate. So on every inhalation, we breathe back in more carbon.
To get the all clear to go back to work, but the debate on whether it's safe to, or if we've flattened the curve enough, continues. Here to speak more on this is USC professor of pharmaceutical and health economics, Joel Hay. Joel, good to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So there are two, I would say on the extreme ends, school of thoughts when it comes to getting back to work, getting our economy running again. One being, let's just open everything up and go back to work. And then on the other end, there's no, we haven't done enough. We need to stay home, stay in this lockdown further. You sort of represent the let's open up, let's get back to work. You've been questioning in articles this idea of social distancing. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Correct. In fact, there's no basis, there's no scientific evidence to support social distancing with this particular virus, C19. Social distancing is for viruses that are very lethal, but not that contagious and transmissible. This is probably the most contagious virus we've ever seen. I mean, it leaped around the world in a matter of weeks or months. Probably was in Los Angeles and California generally last year. I mean, keep in mind, this is the COVID-19 virus. It is from last year, and it's been around for a long time. And that's what a lot of the serology data is now starting to show. We just had a big study in LA County showing that about 70 times more people are positive for C19 than their tests were showing. When you go out and test asymptomatic people out in the community, they are asymptomatic, they're C19 positive, and it's not affecting them.
Well, yes, and some of those studies are obviously in question still because the antigen tests have not proven to be 100% accurate or effective. But we are also learning that it has been in California earlier than first reported based on an autopsy that was just released in Henrico County.
What has not been 100% effective is the idea of social closure. They said that if we reduced office work, if we shut down restaurants and non-essential businesses, if we cut transportation, if we shut down the schools, that we would reduce viral transmission to zero. Guess what? None of that happened. So all these people that question this or that, they're based their entire intervention of social distancing on no evidence.
I know it's hard to...
So now we have plenty of evidence that the virus has been out there for a long time, and we got to open things up.
I understand that it's hard to, to prove a negative, but wouldn't you say, you're saying
the longer version that we have on PRN.FM, those are two experts. These are mainstream, ultra-Orthodox medical doctors, highly respected, one's a tenured professor, stating the obvious, but no one in a position of authority is agreeing. I'm going to ask my guest in a few moments, John Whitehead, what could be the motive? Here's the latest. This is just today. Quote, scientists at Francis Crick Institute studied the structure of coronavirus spikes, compared SARS-V2 with another coronavirus found in bats, and found the spike to be 97% identical with small key differences, meaning COVID is 1,000 times better at infecting humans than its closest relative found in bats because it evolved from several coronaviruses which merged together. So what we're seeing is this. The media could play this story two ways. It could say that more people are being tested than ever before, and therefore more showing that they're positive, but like testing people in an office with 1,000 employees and 100 have a cold, but 90% of the others have the virus in their body but don't have any symptoms, their immune system's stronger, that would be considered normal. So we have a principally non pathogenic as far as for younger people with strong immune system, and highly pathogenic and highly deadly for people with comorbidities. As you've heard, the majority of people who died in America and around the world died in nursing homes, critical care centers, hospices, etc. Also the falsification of these documents. So we have a far, far, far more easily spread virus that is far, far, far less deadly than the authorities have told us, and they've also miscounted deaths. We've reported that repeatedly. We played you clips from funeral directors who were told that they were just putting down COVID. We've told you about the nurses and physicians putting down COVID when it was not. It was other causes of death. So that's up to this moment. So then why not just be honest? Why not just tell the truth? Now here's one of the biggest problems that we have, and no one's talking about it. And this is something that is critical. This is a quote, this is U.S. hospitals getting paid more to label cause of death as coronavirus. Quote, right now Medicare is determining that if a patient had COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you get $13,000. If COVID-19 patient goes on a ventilator, you get $39,000, 3 times as much. Nobody can tell me after 35 years in the world of medicine that sometimes those kinds of things impact on what we do. And that was from a 40-year practicing board-certified physician. So that's just one of them. Also, another big flaw that no one is talking about is the test. This is from a Professor Pascal Sarkry. He is a 25-year practicing specialist in intensive care and anesthesia, and he has been in critical care since 2003, and he's run hospital environments. He has an outstanding background. Here's what he says. I'm just going to give you his conclusion, and he says the following, quote, both molecular tests, the PCR, for diagnosing and its contagiousness, and serological tests with the IgM and IgG antibodies, which means your immunity, are unreliable. They do not take into account the cross-immunity to other coronaviruses, very similar to SARS-2, but more numerous and benign, which has certainly been able to play a great role in the protection of a whole section of the population, especially the young and relatively healthy individuals. 60 to 85% of people are able to eliminate coronaviruses using only their innate immune systems without developing antibodies for this, meaning a whole lot of people will have no antibody protection whatsoever from the virus because their natural immune system destroys it. That's what he's saying. Quote, many people are and will be protected by this cross-immunity provided by all the ambient coronaviruses that we have been breathing without any concern or hardly, like the common cold, for decades and without going through a specific antibody box. Moreover, it is not because the antibodies in question disappear quickly or decrease very strongly in the bloodstream that the individual no longer has immune protection. There are many lines of protection: helper T cells, cytotoxic cells, regulatory cells, other molecules made by B cells, innate immunity, and to reduce everything to antibodies alone to say you are protected or not is profoundly dishonest and stupid. Immunity is not only based upon antibodies, far from it. Patients with moderate COVID showed low levels of serum IgA and IgG specific to the SARS spike protein. Patients with severe COVID showed high levels of specific serum IgA and IgG, the higher the severity of the disease. While the orthodox immunological theory would say that the sicker you are, the more the antibodies you will make to protect yourself, in reality, the high level of these antibodies is partly responsible for the severity of the disease. It's known as an ADE phenomena. The high level of antibodies, far from reflecting protection, reflects an inadequate, maladjusted immune response to the Th2, humoral and inflammatory, rather than the Th1, cellular immune response. This is not good. Why is it not good? Because of the overall poor health status of patients with severe one or more comorbidities and higher age. The most important thing is good coordination between the innate and adaptive immune systems And this is based upon good health, meaning good diet, good physical activity, good mental health. So, quote, strengthen your immunity by a healthy, balanced diet, moderate, varied, and regular physical activity, daily mental hygiene, meditation, self-hypnosis, breathing, walking in nature without masks. So, those are just some of the experts, not a word in the media. Don't protect yourself. Don't believe you can create a good immune system. Wait for the magic cure. Wait for the drug at $3,000 a treatment. Wait for the vaccine, which will be mandated. Now we go to our guest. John Whitehead, as I mentioned earlier in the program, is a civil attorney. He is a scholar. He is a constitutional lawyer, human rights activist, and he founded the Rutherford Institute, a nonprofit civil liberties and human rights organization headquartered in Charlottesville, Virginia. And he is the author of several important books, including Battlefield America, The War on the American People, Government of Wolves, The Emerging Government Police State. John's weekly articles column can be found on his website, Rutherford, RUTHERFORD.org. Nice to have you with us today, John. Hi, John.
Hello, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
John, I'm going to give you a large platform because I'm going to give you one introductory question. Take any part of it and unfold it for our audience, if you would, please. All right?
All righty.
Many of us are concerned about the blocking of our freedom of speech, no matter what that speech could be on. If we want to talk about alternative ways to stay healthy, we're blocked. If we want to talk about a person's freedom of choice to know what vaccine, if any, they want to take or not, we're blocked. If someone wants to talk about the cause of environmental destruction, we're blocked. In fact, everything that at least 1,000 of us who have spent our lives as activists were blocked and then denigrated. So right now, speech is being censored. Classical American literature is being censored. In fact, Kill a Mockingbird is censored. And interesting because to me, and I'm sure many of the people in this audience, that was a classical anti-racist book. In fact,
and a great film with Gregory Peck, by the way.
Well, the person that played the slave in that was Brock Peters.
Yeah,
I knew Brock Peters.
He's a great actor, yeah.
He lived right down the street from me, and we had many conversations. You'll see photographs of him being interviewed in 1967 on my radio program.
Wow.
With Peter Boyle and Julie Newman. Yeah, we would have long conversations. He was very proud of the message in that film. That's why he agreed to do it.
He should
yes. And yet today, they're weaponizing that message in that book. You can't read that.
Yeah.
So how does the deep state or the political and corporate interests capitalize on the ethnic wars being fomented? And I want to be clear, all of America should have been outraged by that unnecessary and completely preventable death, but that is not a condemnation of 800,000 more or less police, but it is a condemnation of those who are allowed to be taught, including instructors who are biased, they'll pass that bias on, and others who know that there is bias without challenging it because of the blue wall. But there are ways for us to show by boycotts, by pulling away our support for these institutions without destroying the entirety of the institution, and then using that as a weaponized tool for change that goes far beyond that. Now, I know you haven't read White Privilege, and I'm saving that, or White Fragility, I'm saving that for commentary with Matt Tabibi tomorrow. But in other words, they've captured a movement and where we've made enormous progress, and they're not allowing any of the progress we've been made. How much of this is the same people that captured Russiagate, that didn't exist, or now have captured the corona pandemic and destroyed us as a society around the world, our income and factories and everything else, and are now capitalizing? Is this a part of the neoliberal agenda? And when I just spoke with a young person who was, everybody's a racist, I said, well, did you ever speak with Cesar Chavez? I did. Did you ever read Marcus Garvey? Did you ever speak with Maya Angelou? I interviewed Maya Angelou many times. John Coltrane. Dick Gregory was a 45-year close personal friend of mine. Angela Davis, who I've interviewed. Stokely Carmichael was a longtime friend of mine, and Erica Huggins. Those are just a few of the people I could mention that would be appalled by what they see is happening to a movement that was meant to bring people together. All of the civil rights leaders that I knew didn't see race as something that divided people based upon their shared humanity and being human beings going back to the world's first parents. And if you look at Martin Luther King today, well, he said, don't judge someone by the color, but by their character. Also expanded his civil rights for blacks to people of all races who were poor and disenfranchised. And I'm seeing a movement to discrediting King, discrediting Marcus Garvey, discrediting the more intelligent voices who have spent their entire life fighting for all of us. We all mattered, and now it's been captured fully. I believe it's beyond the ability to change because they have the media and the body politic behind them. It is a 100-mile-an-hour moving train. It's going to go to 1,000 miles an hour, and sooner or later, the American public are going to realize that this is not the way that you peacefully, nonviolently change the worst in a society. Your thoughts on all this, please. And what role does the deep state have in playing all of them, controlling all of this?
Well, you know, I'm a 40-year constitutional lawyer fighting for free speech. My best friend was a guy named Nat Henhoff, who wrote for the Village Voice. He was like the king of free speech, and the title of his book was "Free Speech for Thee, for Me, but Not for Thee." And what he was saying is, do not deny free speech at all for anybody, because the First Amendment is a steam valve. It lets people blow off, their anxieties. They may be full of hate, and it's good to make them talk. It's good to hear them talk. The problem I've seen is pushing it underground, and I've seen that before. They become violent. We certainly want to do that. But you look at YouTube, Google, Facebook today, and we have a number of instances we're fighting with Facebook in those groups now. There's a guy named David Icke out of England. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's been, because he took a different view on the COVID-19 issue, he's been blocked by Facebook and all that. Well, we're fighting Facebook over that. But who runs the deep state are the corporate elite, and most people don't know these things. But Mark Zuckerberg was in the White House two times in October having dinner with President Trump, and we don't know what they were talking about. So these people have an amazing amount of power. Google works with the Chinese government developing their surveillance systems, and they work with the NSA and the CIA as well. So what we have is a government that doesn't want people to think. The way you make people think is you challenge their thoughts. I mean, anybody that tells me, I think they might be right in a mental institution, but not in a free society. None of us are right, none of us are perfect. I'm a big fan of Martin Luther King. I've written on him constantly. He had a great way of developing free speech, moving a movement forward without hate, and that's what he said, and peace, and don't use violence, but show love toward other people. In fact, he said, if the Ku Klux Klan wants to beat me in the head, I'm not going to beat them back. I'm going to say, I love you. And John Lennon said it best. The two things the government want, they want violence. They'll tweak your beard, and the way to handle the government is through nonviolence or humor. And those things do work. We saw it in the 60s. A lot of that worked with the peace movements there. We got Nixon out of office and all the things we didn't like. And you can do that. But remember, we have a First Amendment, folks, and most people can't even tell me what's in the First Amendment. A lot of this is coming out of our state schools today. But the kids are not taught the First Amendment. They're basically given an indoctrination program on how they think. I mean, you have kids coming out of school today, grade schools, that tell me they can't say the G word. And I asked one of them, what's the G word? She says, I can't say it. I said, would you write it down? She wrote it down. It was guns. I said, how in the world do you explain what a cop carries or someone and one of your Army guys over Afghanistan carries? Guns. We're producing idiots. I mean, people who can't pronounce certain words that are in the Constitution, by the way. So the point is that we've allowed ourselves to be persuaded we need someone else to think for us. And what we want, and Philip K. Dick said it best, if you control what people hear and what they see and what they think, you control their minds. And again, I think that the way the monsters who, and I think they're psychopaths because that's what all the studies show. The most recent study on Washington, D.C. said that the psychopaths have basically collectively gathered there and they run the government. This is from an SMU professor who did a deep study on this. But the point is that we're ruled by people who don't want us to think. They see us as data bits. And they see us as something we can be used, treated like whatever. And then even when we die in a race, they're going to, we have to pay for the burial, getting rid of us. So we're at a point right now, if we don't start thinking, and here's the thing I look at me, I've worked with all races of people. As a young lawyer, I defended all my early clients for black people, prisoners and stuff like that. But I learned right away that one thing is really key. If you believe race is really there, you're a silly person. We are the human race. We may look. We all have 2 legs. We all have 10 toes, 10 fingers, noses, eyeballs. We're all the same. The governments that want to control us, just like Hitler did, Stalin did, Mao did, and you go back in history, and what we're seeing in places like China today is they want to use that stuff against you. They want to make you think, well, this guy's here. He's because of his color, he's evil or whatever. If you think that, you're being controlled by a body of people, if you want to call them that. And a lot of the Internet's run by artificial intelligence now, and people are starting to think like machines, is, listen, we are the human race. Let's treat each other fair. Let's not judge one another. Let's find out what people think. Let's debate these things. In public schools, for years, I've told these school principals who outlaw certain words, I say, debate that. Put the kids on the stage. Let them debate it. Make them think. But do they want you to think? No. How do you control people? You treat them like cattle. You don't want them to think. And that's where we're at today, Gary.
I appreciate that overview. By the way, I'm not a supporter of David Icke. I believe that he has been extremely irresponsible over the decades. I've watched his work. So I am not a supporter. Would I support his freedom of speech? I understand.
Yeah.
I would say yes, I would support his freedom of speech. I just don't support anything he talks about.
Half of my clients over the years, I've told people, many of the clients that I have actually defended over the years and won their free speech cases, I wouldn't want to have dinner with them. I'd get indigestion. But it isn't the point. The point is, if you believe in freedom, you defend the rights of those you don't agree with. And that's the key. Or we don't have any free speech.
Let's take this a little further, John. Today, they're saying that if you say something that they disagree with, then they're going to attack you for that. Let me give you an example.
Yep.
Let's say that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I know, Robert Kennedy F. Jr. runs the Children's Health Defense Fund.
I like him. He's a good man.
He is a good person. He's an extremely good person. And he's out there fearlessly taking on because he knew the setbacks. He called me once and said, Gary, man, they're destroying me on Wikipedia. I said, well, do you want to take a ticket and get the back of the line of everyone in the alternative health movement they're attacking too? I said, just keep this in mind. You have a large group of highly educated people who are paying attention to what you're doing, and you're also talking on behalf, a spokesperson for the voiceless, all of the people who have been their children damaged, and they're being attacked by the New York Times. Focus upon the important enemy. The important enemy should not be spending all your time against Wikipedia. We're dealing with Wikipedia. But instead, and by the way, I'm the lead person attacking in lawsuits that you'll hear about very shortly, Wikipedia. In fact, even today, we're sending the final letter. We're even explaining to them what we're going to be doing and the evidence we have against them, something I decided to do because I want them to know what's coming at them. And I'm going to release this to the public this week. I'm going to share it with the public because they've acted like bullies. They've gotten away with everything because they're very much a part of corporate America. And we're going to prove that. We have proven that, as we'll show. And I said, so once we win our case, then the thousands, tens of thousands of other people, including Deepak Chopra and you, Bobby, you can all go after him as well. But keep focused upon showing the public the truth. And that's what we don't have enough of today. And the public can only find the truth when they look at a Chris Hedges article, or they watch one of Abby Martin's documentaries, or they listen to Nellie Bailey and Black Agenda Report with Glenn Ford. There are probably, I'm going to suggest around probably about 500 voices who have been around long enough to have credibility who have consistently been on the right side of an issue, and they're right in the crosshairs of the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, and now the liberal community is destroying the liberals who are not the corporate liberals and are telling the truth. And virtually all the honest liberals are being shamed, deplatformed, and attacked because of the small group. And that group wouldn't have known to do that on their own. They're not that smart. You talk with some of these young people, they're idiots. I'm talking about the people who benefit from censoring the real free speech advocates. And that's where the deep state comes in. You never saw the New York Times or anyone else until we made it an issue and others made an issue talk about asset forfeiture. This was wrong. You never saw them purge everything in the false run-up to the weapons of mass destruction with Judith Miller.
They don't talk about the $80,000 a year SWAT team raise in America. They don't say anything about that. People, $500 a year getting killed. They don't talk about that stuff. No.
Or debtors' prisons. So the real people who are behind the scenes control the media, the 6 branches of media. They control the educational system, hence the teachers, and what's being taught for a lot of teachers. That filters down to the children. And they control the government, no matter whether it's left or right. It doesn't matter who's in office. They control it. And the public just doesn't seem to fully understand who's behind all of this. Your final thoughts, please.
Well, the average American watches 150 hours of screen devices a month. If you're doing that, you're watching Facebook, Google, the people who run the show. And Carl Bernstein with Bernstein Woodard came out and said it really clearly. He saw the CIA and NSA vetting articles for the New York Times and major TV networks, so you're not going to get the info. So I'm telling people, get off of I don't watch any television at all. I tell people to get off, at least give us 1/3 of those hours every month. Start reading some stuff, get educated. Education precedes action. Go to websites like ours, which I have a lot of information there. Listen to your show. Get your information, get down to your local governments, and start kicking some butt, because we can make some changes there. But you're right. The mainstream media is not going to tell us the truth. And, here's the key. To say, I disagree, I refuse, and I disagree with you, and I'm going to be peaceful, whatever, is the way to define your individuality. Do you want to be an individual, or do you want to be one of the sheep walking around? And you know something, John Whitehead and the people I've been working with for years, I'm not going to be a sheep. I'm fighting the government of wolves. And listen, the reason my book's called Battlefield America, the War on the American People, folks, if you can't see that right now, you can't see the war on the American people and Battlefield America, then you are in la-la land. And you need, like to say, get off the screen devices, get your kids off them who are just addicted to them, and make them start reading we have brochures we hand out to people on the Bill of Rights. Read them at home, because they don't learn them in school anymore. We need some rebels.
I fully agree. We need rebels with the cause.
And some knowledge.
And they have to have the right facts and the right information. Otherwise, they'll be on the wrong side of an issue, even though they may have the right intent, but are being captured by the wrong people. And that's my fear now. We have only the establishment, Anthony Fauci, and that group of people who've captured the whole war on COVID, and they're going to try to silence or punish anyone who challenges them. And the same people control the vaccines and GMOs and 5G everywhere you look. So
and
educate.
They're moving us toward a global government, by the way. I mean,
They are. But thank you very much for all your 40 years of work out there on behalf of the people of the United States. John Whitehead, thank you for being there.
Thank you, sir.
We're out of time, everyone. We have a really important commentary I'm going to share with you tomorrow. Have a nice day, everyone.